Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. This afternoon, or today, my guest is Mr. Marcus McAllister, and he's a chiropractor. So it's going to be interesting chatting to him because he's from, I guess, allied health professional is what we would describe him as. And I wanted to include some of these people in the podcast, not just straight out PT, so that we could get some sort of cross-pollination discussion going on and understand a lot more about allied health. So welcome, Marcus.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you on. I know it's tricky getting our schedules aligned sometimes. So I've been really looking forward to doing this and just catching up. And I guess I know you quite well because we've worked together for a number of years, and I guess that's a really good start. But there's stuff that I still don't know, so it's going to be really useful for me to kind of fill in some of those gaps. Now, obviously you're a chiropractor. And in terms of how that works, and correct me if I'm wrong, so there's some sort of pre-chiropractic qualifications that you did, and I don't know whether that's required or not, and at your AUT, and then you go and do the full chiropractic qualification after that. Yes.
So it depends what level you got to at high school with your science papers. Right. And I was fortunate that back in school, I did science papers in my 5th, 6th and 7th form, which is your 11, 12, 13 years. 12, 13. And it meant that I could go straight into these level 5 papers, they call them at AUT or university. So it's just the first year papers. And there was a certificate of pre-chiropractic that I could do. And that was 7 or 8 papers, and you got a certificate of pre-chiropractic. So that was either full-time for 1 year, or I had a plan, and I was working full-time actually. I could go back to, I probably will go back to how I became a chiropractor.
Let's do that.
Okay. But I don't want to lose track on this part. But
all right.
But just to summarize, it's a 1 year, or you could do it over 2 or 3 years. Part-time, and you do your pre-requests at AUT or Auckland Uni, and then you go to the New Zealand Chiropractic College. There's also universities in Australia that do it, and universities in obviously America and other countries that do it too. And it's 4 years full-time at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic. So I did mine over 6 years. I did 2 years part-time. And then did my 4 years full-time and got qualified there. So it was a 6-year course for me. Bachelor of Chiropractic.
So let's do that backtrack then. So what? I mean, you've been a sporty guy, so maybe even further back, you've clearly got sort of that active lifestyle as what you do now, but you've actually represented New Zealand in 3 different disciplines, haven't you?
You got a good memory.
So jet skiing,
jet ski,
water polo, and is there a track?
Athletics.
Athletics.
Yes. So well done. And we didn't talk about that at any stage in the recent times, so that was well done. So I guess my first one of my first sports when I was young was athletics, and I did do gymnastics for a couple of years when I must have been 7 or 8. It was just a local gymnasium, and used to go there. And then we used to do athletics as a kid. Our parents would send us down, and there'd be 2 or 3 of my brothers and sisters, and we'd all go down to Lindale Athletics Club and do that. And I actually remember sitting on the there's an oval outdoor cycling track there, Tarsia one, and you'd sort of sit on that in the summer, and it'd be nice and warm while you waited for your event, and go onto the middle of the field, which was all grass. So we did athletics when I was very young, and I continued to do that. And I was sort of, I don't know, average at athletics. I did okay. Was not winning not really winning things, but just coming in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th, and then so I did athletics for that while, and then I got into cross country running at intermediate school. So when you're about 11 or 12, and I did that, and I started to do quite well. So I got into the inter-school thing, and I think at Glenmead Intermediate was 800 students, and it was quite a big intermediate school at the time. And because I'm from West Auckland originally, Titirangi.
And
sort of did well in that cross country. So when I got to third form, I was, which is year 9, for the people who don't know the old forms. I started doing athletics competitively, and I hadn't done any water polo at the stage, which was my next sport, and did athletics, and I did quite well. So my parents sort of got me a coach out at Waitemata Stadium, and it was Ross Dello, who was, I think he was pretty high up. I know he was high up in the police, and really respected. His son was on TV. Simon Dello.
Simon, okay.
Yeah. I used to train with the other son, Matthew, and Ross was my coach. And anyway, I used to train out there, and having a coach just made me, more disciplined and excelled. So I did athletics at high level. I went to the Pan Pacific Games in Australia as a 14-year-old, and it was their bicentenary year. It was their 200th year as being Australia in 1988. Quite a while ago. And I would represent New Zealand in the 400 and the 4x100 relay.
Okay.
And I did a personal best every time I ran it from the month before I went to the games for the 400 meters. I think it was like an Auckland champs. I ran a personal best, 53.86 or something like that. And then I ran PBs all at every of the heats, the semi-finals and the finals.
Wow, crikey.
So I came 6th. After in the heats only just qualifying for the semis, and then in the semis I was the 9th place for the final, 9 lanes, and I came 6th, so I was pretty proud of that.
Nice.
And as a 14-year-old, and then we ran the 4x100, and I ran the I think it was the second leg, and our team got a silver medal. So that was
brilliant,
cool.
fantastic. Came
back to that.
Awesome.
So that was the athletics. Water polo I kicked off when I was about 14. So I was in the middle of this athletic stuff, and I did athletics right through to 19, and won Auckland champs 800 meters, and did nationals, and did pretty well at athletics. And then did water polo from age 14 through to about 22. And in my 6th form, when I was about 17, I was the New Zealand water polo goalie. And and we did 3 test matches against Australia, and we lost 1, drew 1, and then lost the last one. Only just. So it's 3 test series. So that was that. I got into the New Zealand under 20 squad that went to the world champs in Egypt, but it was just the timing and cost. It was quite expensive to go to Egypt at that time back then, so I didn't get to go, unfortunately. They had another goalie as well, so that was okay. And then moving to the jet skiing, I sort of picked that off when I was about, I think, 20. And did it for about 5 years. Okay. And won the nationals in 1998, and raced in Thailand, representing New Zealand. So it was kind of a whole different sport. And one thing I remember about the sports is athletics. I just find this quite funny. Athletics would always warm up for about an hour before a competition. You would get there, you would be warming up, getting ready, stretching, run-throughs, drills. Everything was just really focused. Water polo was my sport, where it was 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of preparing, warming up, that sort of thing. And jet ski racing, no one warmed up. I would turn up, and I'll be standing at the back when they were doing a race briefing and earlier on. And I'm out the back doing my stretches, doing my exercises, warming up the shoulders, the arms, and everyone's just standing there, they jump on this jet ski, and it's pretty intense for about probably 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of just, full on. And no one's warmed up, and it just dumbfound me that these people would jump on these skis and not
prepare the body.
No, not at all.
So definitely some rich sporting heritage. How did that lead you into chiropractic? I know your brother-in-law was a big influence, but what made you sort of go, right, this is the path?
Yeah, really interesting. So I through my sports, mainly, I never really had athletics injuries. I never really did anything. I was quite pleased about it. I used to run 1s and 4s and then 800s in my late teens, but I never hurt a hamstring until years later when I was in my 30s and I was playing touch rugby, and it was just a minor tweak. And I'm like, well, I think I've done pretty well considering I was a sprinter. And but at water polo, I remember diving to my right, and the ball, I saved the ball and it hit me here. And it just brought my shoulder across a bit, so I just tweaked my shoulder. And I ended up going to physio, getting that done. And so I was at physio's, and I used to get quite tight in this upper back area because in water polo you're using your hands sculling really high on the surface, and you're using this area, so I used to get quite tight in the neck. So for that, I would my parents sent me to an osteopath actually when I was young, and I kind of worked, but it didn't seem to hold. And from what I know now, it was probably I was training 6 days a week, so it wasn't that the osteo didn't work. I was just, it was my lifestyle, more so than, an inability to fix me, because I know that there's lots of different ways of looking at things, but both the patient or client and the healer have to both participate in the healing. You don't just, get someone to heal you, you've got to participate. So, and as a 17, 18-year-old or 16-year-old when I first went, I wasn't really participating, was I? I was just wanting someone to fix me.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then when I was about, I think I was about nearly 18, and I met my mentor for chiropractic, and he was playing water polo at the time. And he asked me to come and play in his social water polo team.
Okay.
So I was playing for New Zealand as a goalie, and playing social water polo. It's almost like everything was in slow motion, because I've been playing against these people at such a high level, and social was just fun. So the ball would come towards me in the goal, and I'd just be like, just gently pull it down. So I'd go and play in the field, so swimming around, and made it more of a challenge. But so I met my mentor for chiropractic way back then, and it took me a couple of years to get to him. And I used to have this rib discomfort through here, and once again the osteo would help, but do some treatment at the front, and it would definitely help. And I went to this brother-in-law. His name's Dr. Doug Blackburn. He's passed away 11 years ago, actually, sadly. So I went to this chiropractor, and he did something to my back. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And it feels so much better. Yeah. And I hadn't really liked the ribs coming around, joining into the spine, and all this kind of stuff. And so I thought, that's pretty cool. And over the years, I was pretty irregular going to him. Just whenever I was desperate, I'd go along and get adjusted. And he's still my mentor, my inspiration. He doesn't mentor me, but he's my inspiration, and I always look up to him. And he always had this ability to know what to do and when to do it to help, to fix me. Right. So he inspired me, and I remember thinking, I'd love to do what you do. You just put your hands on me, and I feel better. And in my career that I had other jobs, I was always helping people, but in a different way. And I saw this. I thought, I was in my 20s, and I'm thinking, he's so good to be able to do what he did. And I put it aside, because I thought, it's going to be like years of training, and I thought, it's quite a bit of stuff to do. I didn't really feel like going back to school after I'd just finished school at age 18. I went right through to 7th form, got my 8th bursary, did all of that. And, when I was 26, I was sitting down thinking, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do? And I've looked at I was working in IT at the time. I did sales for a freight company, Main Freight, Daily Freight and Main Freight. And I moved into the IT department. I worked for them for 10 years before I started my chiropractic studies. And I was looking at doing some courses in IT, and at the time they had a bit of a freeze on external trainings and things like that at the company. They're very good at doing trainings and stuff. It just happened that when I was thinking about retraining, going further, they had a freeze, and just thought, I need it. I want to do something, and I thought, I'm going to be a chiropractor. Right. And took me a year to get into a course. Like I had to organize everything and time it. And I went and did my 2 years pre-request while I still worked at Main Freight, because I had a mortgage at the time, so I could keep working and earn. And I would I'd do I'd be studying at night and going to work all day. And I did it over 2 years. So I was pretty lucky that Main Freight but was still associated with. Now I have a corporate clinic in there. I've done that for 15 years.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was very lucky. They gave me the time. They used annual leave a lot of the time, but they'd also give me time off when I needed to go do a lab on a Friday at 12:30 or something like
Brilliant.
that. So,
Yeah. That's kind.
Great company.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for the support I've had from Mainfreight over the years.
Yeah, it sounds like so. That was the original connection. You already knew them when you went back as a chiropractor to support them as in a different function. Okay.
Yes. So I've had an association with them for now 27 years at Mainfreight.
Right.
So I have a lot of respect for them, and very grateful that I can help the team with the corporate practice I have out at Mainfreight and their head office in Otahu. Yeah. So that brother-in-law was my mentor, inspired me, got me into it, and I did the training, and took 6 years. So I came out at age 33 and started practicing from there.
Brilliant. I've got a train of thought that I was going to follow on there, and it's gone. So I'll come back to it because it was important.
Yeah.
I guess let's go back to the Mainfreight thing. I think you can maybe fill in some of the other stuff that you do in that corporate space, because I know you've done some talks and some presentations and a whole bunch of other stuff, which that could be common to both of our industries in terms of the lanes that we're in.
Absolutely.
It's what's the stuff you do with Mainfreight, and what are the other things that you've done?
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess you've broadened my thought process to I can explain it in a way that if personal trainers are listening, or other people in the industry want to get into a company. I was lucky because I worked for them for 10 years before I finished my studies. So I've done 10 years with them and had a relationship. But so I'm just thinking of the question. It was how I got what I do for them and how I got involved. So basically, I graduated as a chiropractor. 4 months later, I put a proposal to the HR manager. I went to the top. I learned that from my sales days in the freight industry. There's no point starting, right at the bottom, so to speak. And I don't mean any disrespect, but that person will probably filter out what you're doing, and you won't get in the door. So it's quite good to go to the top. And I went to the top, not as in the CEO, but I went to the HR manager and said, "Hey, this is what I do now," and I already knew her, so that was okay. And she said, "You know what? Let's give it a go." She had a holistic view, and was into looking after the team and seeing what could improve their productivity and things like that. So we gave it a go, and before long, I was in there. I was doing 2 days a week. I did that for about 5 or 6 years. And then the 2 days, and I did drop it down to 1 day a week after I had children. So that changed that. But 2 days a week, and it was pretty busy. And I'd be in there until about 7 o'clock, 7:30 on a Tuesday night was one of the days, and I'd go on a Thursday during the day. And so I do talks for Mainfreight whenever they had some of their meetings with the storemen and they needed to do some lifting courses. And I'd get in there and talk to them. And day to day, I would go in there and set up a portable table I had there. They have these boardrooms in the head office, and privacy was an issue. And I remember at the start, because they're all glass screened boardrooms, and at the start I ended up grabbing a one of those fold up concertina type screens, and I had that up, and it did look a little unprofessional. It did the job, but it just didn't quite look right. It was a big one, so it covered, we definitely gave the privacy. And it was only about 3 months later, they the branch manager at the Auckland branch just took the initiative and said, "Hey, we're gonna put some curtains in there, some blinds." Cool. They would have been reasonably expensive, and they put them in, and the blinds are still there today. So one boardroom has the blinds.
Perfect.
And on occasions I've arrived there, and there's been some pretty high-powered people at Mainfreight in the boardroom, in meetings, and I've had to just politely knock and go hi, and they know who I am, and they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is the only room with the blinds in it."
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, look, no problem." And,
Shift.
and it's like, little old me to the branch managers and the guys in head office, sorry, and they kindly move so I can put the screens down.
Yeah, good. So you're adjusting, so you're doing some adjustments as well as sort of coaching and teaching on safe lifting.
Yep. So that doesn't happen all the time. The manual handling or safe lifting courses and things like that. But I also go around and talk to the team about their ergonomics, and I'm really lucky. I know everyone. I can walk around the office like I'm one of the team, and they make me feel like one of the team. I don't overstep my mark. I don't work there, but I've known them long enough, and I can walk around and I just and I can just action like this, and they'll sit up, or they
lift the sternum,
lift the sternum, or just bring your mouse in closer and things like this, or quite a good idea if you lifted your monitor up and things like this, and individuals will come and ask me for advice, and there's no charge for that. It's just I'm there, and I will just help them out.
Right.
And I'm very lucky with the setup at Main Freight that the team pay half and Main Freight pay half.
Right.
And also the billing is done once a month, so I don't have to collect money every day.
Yeah.
The idea was I could set something up that everyone in the team could afford.
Yeah.
And they set up that way,
That's
and overheads are lower, so I can give them a discount on the rate, because and the receptionists do all my bookings, and I just turn up and treat the team.
Awesome.
So
great.
Yeah, pretty lucky.
Deal. Yeah.
So that's the corporate thing.
The thing I've remembered, I wrote it down. Chiropractors are one of 3 people that can read X-rays. Is that right?
I know we are one of 3. I know we are one of them. There's the radiographers and radiologists. So a radiographer takes X-rays. So you'll find radiographers in hospitals, at the radiography centres. A radiologist can be a doctor, but can also be a radiologist, and they spend more years training, and they can report on and read X-rays. A radiologist isn't able to report on an X-ray. So if you ask them what's in the X-ray, they're not allowed to tell you. Because they probably know, but they're not qualified to tell you what it is. And I'm trying to think who else can report on them. I'd say specialists. Could do that. And that sort of thing. So part of the 4 years of full-time study after the 1 year of pre-request, over those 4 years we do 2 years of diagnostic imaging, and it's 4 semesters, so it's pretty. It was one of the trickier papers, because there's so much to cover. We had to know not just the spine. I had to know tumors in the leg, if you X-ray leg, and just tuberculosis, in the lungs. You've got to be able to recognize cancers and all sorts of pathology. So it's pretty full on. So that's to become the radiographer and the radiologist. So we do both over 4 years.
Wow, it's a lot. I read on one of your slides that the amount of study you do is greater than a GP. Is it the same or more? And there's certain areas that are much more. Is that right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember where I got that from. So it was some slides I had at my last practice, my last private practice, and we do a bit more study than GPs. It doesn't make us any better at being, diagnosing things like that. But then you look at the different subjects, and I guess it would vary slightly from university to university. But I'd say it's pretty equivalent. But I guess some of the distinctions were we did a lot more in diagnosis. So we did a lot in diagnosing, because you need to know if someone's coming in and they've got pain through the left-hand side of the chest, into the jaw, down the arm. Most health professionals, I would say all health professionals, are trained to realize that the differential that you put at the top of the list would be heart attack. So you need to be aware of that. and because they could have pain in the chest here and the rib, and they might have had a rib pain or a spine pain there before. You just got to recognize that there's a few other things that could mean they are having a heart attack. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, lots of study, and so hence being a doctor, right? That's
yes. Yeah. And one of the things I actually forgot to mention, but we do a lot of neurology as well, and but then on the other side, we probably do more neurology than a GP, possibly,
right.
But because I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's all pretty within 10 hours or 20 hours of difference, over, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of hours of study, over the 5 or 6 years. But they do way more pharmacology, right? Because they need to know their drugs and what they're prescribing intimately. Yeah. Whereas our pharmacology was, I think it was just one semester. Okay. One paper on pharmacology. It might have been 2. Yeah. And we just need to know what, if people are on drugs, what those effects will be, and what how that could affect how they present it to us. But also how could it, how our treatment could affect them if they're on these drugs. Sure. And we're talking prescribed drugs, but also we had to learn about recreational drugs too, because they could have an effect on the patient as well. Okay. Yeah. So GPs do way more study in that area than us. Yeah.
I guess working with other health professionals was an area I wanted to touch on and dig into a little bit, because for listeners, for PTs who are out there, and I've spoken to an exercise physiologist, so they're slightly different to us, and it was useful to get a bit of an insight into her world. But now we've got a bit of an insight into yours. How do you work with other health professionals, and what are your recommendations in terms of, I guess, building that relationship, but also maintaining it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because a lot of it's to do with networking. Whether you talk relationships with health professionals, from a GPs, physios, osteos, acupuncturists, massage therapists, and then the fitness side, personal trainers, musculoskeletal therapists, and things like this. So it's a lot of it's who and networking, and it's not ideal. I think years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, there was definitely a push, I think, from a political side of things, from the top, and I think they were trying to get more collaboration across professions, and it sounded all good, but in reality, it's really your network. So if I've quite often had a patient that we've had in common with a physiotherapist or with a personal trainer, and I'm happy to talk to anyone. If there's a GP, if there's a physio, or massage therapist that I need to talk to, I'll just give them a call. I'm pretty accessible as a health professional. I think people can ring me, message me, email me, and I'll chat to them. But what I find is it's quite hard to link up with these people. Like we talked about booking a time here. It's just everyone's working at different times, and it's finding that time, which is a bit of a challenge. So often what happens is I'll give advice to the patient, and I'll say, these are some things, and I'll write it down, or I'll just tell them depending on what they need, and then they can pass that on to their physio or their doctor or something like that. So, but I never presume to tell another professional what to do, because they're experts in their area. So, I'm always very respectful of other professions. Someone might say, my massage therapist is doing this, should they do that? And I'll say, well, that can be quite helpful in some ways, but just talk to them about that. As an example. So I'm not going to say no, don't do that. And another thing that comes up quite often is people might come to see me for back injury, or their neck's jammed up, and they'll go along to another health professional, and the health professional will go, no, don't go there, just come here. And I've always struggled with that, because whenever I've had an injury myself, an example, I sprained my ankle very badly in 2007, and I was having adjustments on it, I had physiotherapy a lot.
Yeah.
And I had some acupuncture on it as well.
Yeah.
And finally I had massage therapy, and I threw everything I could at it. I mean, I could have thrown more at it, but I believe those were the key things to get me right. And my ankle's actually, the left ankle was actually better than the right ankle.
Really?
Right ankle plays up on occasions,
Yeah,
but because I'm now a trail runner, so ankles are quite important.
Yes. Yeah.
So I recommend health professionals collaborating together, and I don't believe someone should throw 10 things at something, but to an injury. But I think it's quite good to get a couple of angles on it. I really do, because we all have our different training and our different experience and expertise.
Totally.
And you can throw different angles at it, and between 2 of you or 3 of you, as professionals, you can get a great result for your client or patient.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's good because, you, as you say, different people will see things in different ways because they've got different perspectives and different trainings. It's only going to be in the client's favor, right? It's only going to be a better outcome potentially for the client.
Yes.
So if they can collaborate and work together for the best interests of the person they're working with, that's kind of what it's really all about, isn't it? We've got to keep that client or that customer, the focus of our attention and our relationships.
Because it's all about them. It's not about ego.
Yeah.
Because that's why you're doing what you do.
Yes, exactly.
For those
and I think that's why it's really important to seek out the people that you click with, who don't have those egos and don't try and patch protect. It is about working together for the best interest and best outcomes of the client or the patient. And some people won't allow that to happen well, and other people are all on the same page. Happy days. So I guess it's horses for courses, isn't it, in terms of how you build that relationship, who you build it with. Some of those things might happen by accident. You might get referral and you've never spoken to that physio before, but for some reason that person has been recommended to you by someone else, and so there's multiple parties involved, and so you end up sort of collaborating with a physio, for example, who you may never have contacted, and then, because this is what's happened to me, and you then end up building a relationship with that physio and go, oh great, well look, what sort of people are you looking for? How can we help each other? And and that seems to be a really good way to build on it.
Yes, and it does work that way. And I've had I've even had patients come back because they've been to a surgeon for a consult because they've got neuropathy, which is nerve pain, or feelings down into their legs from a low back say injury, and they've said, oh, the surgeon said I should find a good chiropractor, and they said, oh, I already see Dr. Marcus McAllister, and he said, oh, I've heard, and a couple of these surgeons have said to these patients, oh, I've heard of him, yep, he's good. And it's like, I feel very, very humble because, they're pretty well-respected surgeons, or very well-respected surgeons. And I don't know if they're just saying it or they have actually heard of me. I don't know. But
they might be.
Maybe a couple of patients have mentioned me and he goes, yeah, I've heard of him.
Okay.
But it's quite good that they, they, rather than doing the surgery in this particular patient's case, they said, go see a chiropractor or go see a physio, to the patient. So it's quite good.
Yeah, yes, it is. Well, I've found it to be a godsend for me. I mean, I've put my body through the ringer, reasonably firmly over the years, and I think sometimes you need a bit more treatment, sometimes you need less treatment. But I think overall, some sort of maintenance is an absolute no-brainer, and it certainly worked for me. And I was talking to a guy the other day who's a new client of mine, actually, who I think he saw a chiro in the UK. So he's been in New Zealand a few years, but he went to one and had a really good experience, and then moved to New Zealand, and there's just, I think he said monthly, he's just consistently over 10, 15 years kept seeing one. And I was like, good on you, it works for you. And there's some of that psychosomatic element, but also there's definitely the physical as well.
Yeah, I have a bit of an analogy for patients who, because sometimes people who are maybe not or anti-chiropractic or not so keen on chiropractic, I'm not sure why, but they might say to someone, once you go to a chiropractor, you have to keep going forever. And And my answer to that is no, you don't. First of all. Second of all, it depends on the chiro. Some are very passionate about health and wellness, and they really want you to. But you get personal trainers, nutritionists that are really keen for the health of their clients. So you don't just go to your personal trainer for a month,
that's right.
or 3 months to your nutritionist, and then you're right. My philosophy on this is you've got to be able to do something you can sustain if it's one of your important things, to have a good nervous system and spine and mobility, things like that, or if nutrition is important, or physical training is important to you, you need to be able to do it in a way you can sustain. So if monthly is something you can afford and you've got the time for, and you're getting results, that's quite good from a chiropractic point of view. If weekly is what you can afford and you've got the time and you feel amazing, you go weekly to a chiropractor. And same with your trainer. You can't go 6 days a week for 3 months, lose all the weight, get fit, and stop. What was the point? And it's the same in chiropractic. You don't go 3 times a week for 3 months and then you feel amazing and don't go back again. You're going to get more benefit for doing a sustainable thing with a chiropractor, a sustainable thing with your personal trainer, or nutrition. That's my philosophy.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I totally agree. You've been in business for a while now. What sort of things have worked for you over the years in terms of staying in business? Things that you do on a regular basis that keep things rolling along. What are the tips that you think would translate into other areas of health?
Yes, into different areas of health. Yeah, how other health businesses could run. So you've got to know your running costs. You've got to know where your biggest expenses are, and often it's the rent of your building and your staff. So those are the two biggest, and then you've got other ones as well. That's number one. It's not number one; it's one of the ones. Secondly, you've got to love what you do. I turn up to work and I love what I do. I had a busy Thursday last week, busy Thursday this week, and Friday, but Thursday was quite insanely busy. And I finished and I actually felt energized. I was tired, but I felt energized. I worked from last week. It was from about 12:30 till about 9 at night. I finally got home, and this Thursday was still about 7:38. So I do an afternoon evening shift, and just about energized. So you've got to love what you do. I think that's another important thing. What else to sustain your business? So you've got to, and I learned this from my sales days back at Daily Freight and Main Freight when I was young. I did learn a lot from everything I've done, because at the end of the day, when you run a small business, some of the people listening to this, they'll be running their own business. They'll be personal trainers, they'll be nutritionists, all sorts of people in the health industry, and other people who are employed as well. But you've got to, I lost my train of thought. You've got to.
That's okay. I've done it. Now you've done it. We're all good.
So different people, different businesses. I was on such a roll there.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's just it'll come back to me in a second.
Yeah, think of something new.
Yeah,
and it'll pop in like the X-rays did for me.
Yes. So I got a bit lost there. So, but those are some of the things to sustain your business anyway. I'll probably watch this later on and I'll go, I was going to say that. But,
That's okay. So what I can do is, I always do show notes. So I put a few bullet points in the show notes, so we talked about this, we talked about that. Here's a link to Marcus's, website. Here's a link to Marcus's Facebook page. So, if there's something critical, you come back to me and go, oh, I know what it was. I can always slip it into the notes and
cool.
hey presto, so we haven't missed out,
Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's good. It's good. I think some of that stuff is absolutely applicable.
I've remembered.
Excellent.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
What I learned from my sales days was you've got to keep, if you've got a funnel and you've got your own business, what you've got to do is you've got to keep pouring new things in.
Yeah.
Okay, so you fill up the funnel with opportunities. So it might be you go and do a talk to a business. It might be that you go to a market. I remember going to the markets, Browns Bay markets, when I first started out, and I'd spend all morning there, and I might get one new patient, and you had to be there at 5 o'clock, and you couldn't get out until about 2, and it was a big day for one patient, and that one patient can refer you 10 over time.
Yes.
Or not, but you got to keep pouring in these things. So I do spinal screenings at businesses. I go and do workshops and things. No obligation, no charging. I'll just go in and just check the health of a team, and I'm just grateful for that. And what I find is when you put it out there, it just seems to come back. I remember one day I moved into my new business some 10 years ago, and I walked the streets. It was about a year after I got there. I did it several times, but I remember one particular day I walked the streets and I talked to businesses around where I worked. It's sort of a commercial area. And no pressure, no obligation. I'm not a precious salesperson. It's just let's just meet people. I love meeting people. And you put it all out there. And I remember thinking, it was a great day. We met lots of people. And I remember I didn't really sign anyone up to just come and do a spinal screening, no charges, check spines of their team and answer any questions and do a health check and things like this. But the crazy thing was the next 2 weeks, the phone went off the hook. I think I got 10 new patients over those next 2 weeks, and none of them were from those people I went and met.
What?
It was almost like, I just went out and did this thing and it just came back. And it happens quite often when you get your head in the right space and you start working towards your business. It just seems to start happening, or either that or I'm just lucky. I don't know, but it just seems to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've experienced the same thing, and it's a bit freaky, isn't it? It's a bit like The Secret. When you put your brain into that mode and you start taking some action, you get a reaction that isn't necessarily correlated to what you did, but but the timing is, and there's definitely something to that. I can't put my finger on what it is exactly, but and it's a powerful thing, and I guess it's a nice reminder to kind of go, right, well, what's the next thing? What do I need to do to keep putting stuff into that funnel so that my brain is in that mode and I'm pushing forwards?
Yes, and the opposite can happen too. If let's say you've had a bad week or a bad day or something personal's going on, and you're just in your mind, you're not even saying out loud, I'm just too busy to deal with this. And what happens is you get quiet. It starts getting quiet, or people start canceling their appointments. And anyone who's in a booking-based system will probably know what I'm saying if they're a little bit aware of that kind of thing. They'll be, I've had times where it's like I've not been in the mood, and it's really got quiet, and then they have to switch their brain into, I need to start getting some business going again. And I'm lucky I've been in this business for quite some time, because a lot of people. I can often go places and I'll see someone I know, and I have this thing, if I've treated someone once or twice, I generally, it sounds really rude, but I don't remember them. But if I've treated someone 6 to 10 times, I'll generally remember the face. I can't remember the name, but if I see someone over 10 times in a, let's say over a period of an injury or something like that, I even remember their name a lot of the time. So I'm quite blessed with that. But it's quite amazing how that happens. It's quite interesting. But so you can't put your mind the other way and say I'm too stressed and I'm too busy, or else you'll lose momentum.
It's a good lesson for sure. Well, those are good tips. I appreciate those. Those are good. I like the universality. Is that a word?
That sounds good to me.
That it's not specifically chiropractic. That could be applied to anyone. So that's great. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time. It's been awesome catching up and finding out all those little bits that I didn't know. So really appreciate it, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Rich. Really appreciate it. It was good to chat.
Cheers.
Right.
And see you soon, probably.
Have a good weekend. See you.
Cheers. You too.
Bye.